Welcome everyone to another episode on our channel. Today, I'm going to customize a figure for you using some things I've purchased from eBay and some things I've purchased from Monkey Depot, which is a nice internet supplier of 1/6 scale figures and or loose items, clothing, weapons, so forth. I love that particular website. So I'm going to use a universal body. I don't think anyone really calls it a universal body. Perhaps I'm the only one. I don't know, but I call it a universal body because to me it's truly universal. We have two different neck attachments. One that's useful for a head that already has a neck attached to it. And also, it's very useful for a head that does not have a neck attached to it, like this one here, Henry Cavill. In this case, you would remove this particular attachment, this neck here, and you'd replace it with this neck. So this would go on this body, and then the head would go over the neck. All right. In this case, I have Jake Gyllenhaal. So the MX02-A body has the skin tone that best matches this particular head. And to get this head to work with this body, I'll have to take out this attachment and the attachment underneath it and slip this head on. Hopefully that will work. Sometimes it's actually too small down here. In that situation, I'll put both attachments back onto this body, take this attachment out, and slip the head over this attachment. I hope that all makes sense. So first things first, I've got to get this piece and the piece underneath it off, and hopefully that will work. I'm using a bowl of very hot water because I'm too impatient to use a hair dryer. So hot water definitely works for me. So I've really warmed it up quite a bit. Hopefully this will just pop off. I'm hoping anyway. We'll see. It took a bit, but there it is. So that's the first piece. Then we have another piece, which is rounded. It's way too big for this thing to go on. So I'm going to have to get that off. Now that one I might be able to just pull off. No. And that actually did come out. So it's, let's see if you can see it. It's just circular. Anyway. Like a half dome, basically. All right. So I've got that off. Now, I'm going to put this head on just to make sure it works before I put clothes on. So I don't have to take the clothes off and then take this piece out, put everything back on originally to the figure and so forth. So let's warm this thing up and let's see if that goes on nicely to that neck piece. And if so, we will be able to kind of have some smooth sailing from this point on. So I'm going to get him out of the water, use my pliers. Usually I have a spoon. But hopefully this works. Oh yeah, it's gonna work. So I'm gonna take him off. He's still warm enough to do. Good. That's a good sign. So now I can put them together. And I've decided to do a night. So first things first, I'm going to take hands off, because anytime you put on clothes, hands can get in the way. On these figures, it usually isn't a problem, but I'm not going to take any chances, make it easy on myself. The first thing that needs to go onto the knight, from my perspective anyway, is the chainmail. So I have chainmail that I've gotten from Monkey Depot. And usually when I put on clothes with sleeves on it, I do one of two things. Either put the hands in the back or I put them straight up. I think we'll try it straight up and see if this works. Yeah, I think it's going to work. So we're just going to get this over the arms. Seems to be caught on something. There we go. Got it free. And I'm doing this without having the head on, because when you have the head on, sometimes it makes it difficult to get it through the neck section. So without a head, it's so much easier to do. I'm going to also put on this particular knight. I have a red robe. So we're going to put that on as well, using the same technique. Okay. Usually when I put these things on, the figure is facing me. So forgive me as I turn him around and try to get this thing on. Sometimes I just like tugging on it a little bit, moving the arms down. Good. So far, so good. There we go. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to get his boots on. And this is what they look like. They're made of chainmail. The one thing I want to do when I put boots on, whether they're flexible like this, or whether we're talking about a shoe or a boot, is I do want to bend the foot up. You see, it's bent up. I'll bend this one up too. But when you put the footwear on, make sure the toes are pointed up. All right, so we're making sure this goes over, and I'm making sure that the toes stay pointed up. Toes up, but foot facing down. Okay, I'm feeling, making sure everything's still in the right place. I feel the foot, and now I've pressed the toes straight down. So he has his first boot on. All right. I'm going to do the same thing. Toes up, as you can see from this angle. And let's get this thing on. Making sure the toes stay up, but the foot is pointed down, toes still up, good. I can still feel the toes, I've got it in there now. I can press the toes down, and yeah, we've got both boots on, or chainmail boots. There we go. So far, so good. All right. Now, with this particular knight, he has these pads that go onto his shoulder. And what I like to do, instead of unstrapping and strapping them on, if I can get away with it, all I want to do is slip it on over the wrist with the hand not here, and just kind of shimmy it up until I get to where I want it to be. There we go. Okay. All right, so he's got one on. And I do the same thing on the other side. Just put it through the chainmail. Make sure the hand is not on. That will make it much more complicated. Of course, you can unstrap it and strap it back on too. Oh, duh. Let me try that again. There we go. Yes, you can unstrap it and strap it back up, but I'm kind of lazy. I don't like doing that if I can get away with it. So here we go with the chainmail. Hopefully I'm doing it from an unnatural direction, so it's probably going to take me more time to get this done. I may turn him around just to make it easier for me. There you go. Grabbing the sleeve, pulling on it, making sure the sleeve gets through, and then we're just going to shimmy it up to where it's pretty much over his shoulder. Yeah, there you go, both sides, right? All right, he's starting to come together pretty nicely. All right, so the next thing is the sword and belt, because you might want to pose him without his cape on, because these things are kind of cool to see. So we have to unwrap, and I've already unwrapped the belt. It was all twisted up around the belt. Got it unwrapped. And what I'm going to do is make sure that this belt has a sword on the left side. All right. So I'm going to bring the belt around. Going to bring this around. And I'm going to thread it through. Try to get it tight, or fairly tight. And thread it through the other side. There we go. Sometimes you have to tug and pull, and eventually it works out. All right. Oh, I guess it helps if I don't have his arm wrapped around the belt. So I'm going to tighten the belt a bit more. Pull it through this end first in the middle. Get a good grip in here. Sometimes I like to have a flathead screwdriver so I can get in here and pull a loop through. You can see that loop right here. Let me see if I can get my finger through it. right there. So I'm pulling that so I can get a tighter lock on the belt. There we go. Good. There we go. Definitely coming together. All right. Now I already know that the head fits. So my next step, and I think I'm going to have to pause because I'm going to have to get this water hotter again. So let's pause for a second. Let me get the water hot. We'll get the head into the hot water and get the head on. We'll pause for a second. We are back. The water is hot. And I am going to just stick the head in there and grab my pliers. Turn them around a couple times. He should work fine. I do want to empty the water here and then put it on the towel. And some on the towel as well. Wipe them off a little bit. And let's see if we can get them in. Ah, God. It's always good when it goes in. All right, now, I do not like covering the head with a knife. So, making sure his feet are fine. You can start to see him definitely come together. I am going to straighten him up a bit. I'm going to put his hands in. And let's see if we can then strike a pose. Oh, we got the shield to put on too. Let me grab a stand. It's always a challenge to put these things together. Let's hope it's easy. Oh, it was. Good. Okay. So now with him, I have the chainmail and I have a robe. So I'm hoping I could really do a bit more in terms of making sure he's modest by putting pants on him. But for now, let's see how let's see how this does. We'll get his feet situated, hopefully. Bring him up a bit more. Move him over here. Get that boot back on. Pure stiff slipped off. Hold on one second. The thing about these types of boots is that they do tend to fall off. One thing that can be very helpful is if you actually take a rubber band and kind of wrap them around the upper part of the leg. It usually will keep things where they need to be. Okay. All right. So his shoes are back on. All right. And his sword we'll put back in. And let's move this stuff out of the way so I have a flatter surface to work with. There you go. And there we go. He's looking pretty good, actually. If you want to put the shield on, let's try it this way. see if we have more mobility this way. It's even better if you use a different hand, actually. But we'll try to make do here. What's preventing the movement, some of the movement anyway, is the fact that his chainmail is getting in the way. Yeah, but if he wants his... Let me try it one more time. It's actually designed to go through this hand. I'm left-handed, so I tend to do things backwards. So with that adjustment, I think we will do a lot better. Let's go back to the first method. Put his hand through there. This time the chainmail should go through quite nicely because the one side of the shield has a longer strap, which allows you to get the arm through. Let me turn him around so I can work from this side. Ah, that's better. It's always better when you don't have to do things backwards. Okay. And just get that around there. There we go. He's losing all sorts of positioning now. But I think we've got him kind of where we want him. All right. Feet flat. All right. There. Does that look okay, guys? I hope so. Let's put his head more towards the camera. Straighten it out a bit more. There we go. Oh my gosh, that's looking so much better. Now, if you wanted to, you could, cover up these nice red things and put his other robe on, which is black. I kind of like them in red, though. That's just me. The other thing you could do is put a helmet on him. I would prefer to have him hold the helmet or to put it down next to his feet. It just depends on what you want to do with the character. Let's get his sword in the right position. That's better. All right. So, all right. Now, you can change the hands out so that you can get a more gripping hand so that he can actually hold the sword. With this particular hand, that sword is not going to stay in his hand. And this won't help you. This is a fist. There's no opening. That won't help you. So the best hand for the sword is going to be this hand. So there's an opening, and that will work. All right. Now, his head happens to be too large for the helmet. I've already tried that part. He's got too much hair. It's too puffy. It won't work. But if you really, really, really wanted to have your knight wearing this wonderful helmet, and it weighs a ton, actually. It's made out of metal. Get a head that it can fit over. Let me see if the eyes are showing. Yep. All right. But when I have Jake Gyllenhaal in place, I'm not going to cover his head. I'm going to have this. Maybe I'll put it, under his arm. I have it cradle it. But it does weigh a ton. So I don't know, I will be able to get him to hold it without using some hot glue. And personally, I don't want to bother with it right now. He is bending over. He's got too much weight on him. All right, there we go. That's better. All right. So this didn't take long to do, per se. Very inexpensive in terms of doing something like this. If you're getting the clothing, the shield, and so forth, I probably spent $20, $25, $30 for everything, sword, everything. Maybe $35. The head, it's probably about $20. So it's really not much of an expense to do this kind of customizing. You just need to know what look you're going for. And for me, with a knight, I'm going to look for someone with a beard. And I found that person in this head sculpt with Jake Gyllenhaal. So we'll pause now and we'll get some tighter shots of him and maybe do a little more posing. We're back, and I forgot to show you him from different angles. So I put the helmet here and, of course, the shield here. They both weigh a ton. That's why when he had the shield on, he was kind of leaning forward. It truly does weigh a ton. These are well-made items and very substantial in terms of weight. So let's turn him around. You can see he's got the regal pose now. He's holding his sword. I changed out hands. There's his sword. You can see the shoulder padding there. Just love it. Everything just looks great on this guy. I didn't really want to hide anything by putting the cape on. And since these things weigh a ton, I think less actually is more in terms of posing him and showing him with the items at his feet. So we'll pause now and get some tighter shots from here on up. You can see him better now, and I just love this particular head sculpt. It is so well done of Jake Gyllenhaal. I'll just turn him slightly in one direction and then the other to get his profiles from each side. I think he looks absolutely stunning. So we'll get a real tight close-up of his face, and you can see the quality of this head sculpt. I'm really particular about head sculpts, but sometimes you have to work with what you have. In this case, it wasn't hard to work with this head at all. This is one of the better made head sculpts, and I couldn't have been more pleased when I saw the quality of the facial details in this particular sculpt. So here he is, Jake Gyllenhaal, as a knight. Here's one last look at our figure, our knight. I hope you've liked what you've seen. If you have, please consider giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. In the meantime, everyone, have a great day.